Hey, Trekkers, welcome to our 20th episode and the launch of Season 2 for us here at Trek Tonight. We are very excited to be dedicating the next 10 weeks to Star Trek Lower Decks. We have Joe Townsend in the house tonight, and I can't wait to get into the conversation about this wonderful animated comedy. What I think of as a loving poke at all things Trek. So let's hit it. Hey there, how are you? Let's get the gang in here right away. Leo Janicek, how are you?
Good.
Excellent, that's fantastic. And as always, we are thrilled to have with us Mr. Joe Townsend. How are you, Joe?
Doing wonderfully, thank you.
Good.
Great to see you guys again.
It's great to see you too. We had a little break in between these two shows, and here we are again now, dedicated to another show, Lower Decks. Now, I know you've watched it periodically. It's not a go-to show for you, Joe, but you have watched it and enjoyed it.
Absolutely. The way I would put it is, it's just been Lower Decks has been a lower priority, I guess. It's not something like the other shows where at 12:01 a.m. California time, I said, okay, new episode. And it's been there for me. I have checked it out periodically, especially if it looks like one of particular interest. For example, when the Rikers came on the show about a year ago.
Yeah.
But I do appreciate you asking me to appear today, not just for the thrill of being with you guys, but also to have me watch a little bit more of it. And it's thoroughly enjoyable and funny. I laughed out loud a few times this week. So you know what? I may just have to bump up that priority just a bit.
Well, and it is a Townsend tidbit program.
Yeah. Yes, it is, to say the least.
We could probably just do an hour on Townsend tidbits by going through the show.
Yeah, there's this like every episode of Lower Decks. It is rife with Easter eggs.
Yeah.
There are quite a few in this one, which is interesting because a mutual friend of ours who is sort of newer to Star Trek, I was talking with him, and I was curious whether he still enjoyed it, whether it's just like jokes for the old fans. Yeah. But the comedy itself is, I don't want to say separate from the inside jokes, but there's enough of a plot, and the comedy is solid enough that you don't need to have watched hundreds of hours of Star Trek previous to seeing it. Although I think there are certain jokes that certain bits you'll get more out of if you're in the know. But
of course. Well, it's just like with my wife Gina. I mean, I sort of dragged her into the Star Trek universe from the Star Wars universe, and she hasn't seen everything. Every now and then I'll be like, oh, you saw that episode, right? And she's like, no, I didn't see that. But at any rate, but she enjoys it. And as a matter of fact, I don't know whether she's watching tonight or not because she
I hope
didn't.
So. Hi, Gina.
She didn't want. No, it's because she didn't want to not have seen how season 2 ended before tonight. And so there she is.
Hey.
Hi, Gina.
Hey, Gina.
You are watching us via Twitch, aren't you? Thank you very much. That brings up a point I wanted to make, but I want to bring in our good buddy, Keith Jacobson. Hi, guys, watching on both Facebook and Twitch. Well, that is impressive.
I wonder how he knew we were high.
Oh, Gina says she's here to support.
Of
Yeah,
course.
because I was saying you weren't going to watch. So we got a little Vulcan salute there.
Yes.
But yeah, no, we are now also on Twitch, and Twitch is an interesting platform to be on for me also, because you can sort of stream anytime.
Yeah.
So like, I did a test one yesterday, and then I had my morning coffee and I hopped on Twitch and I was just like, hey everybody. And I don't think anybody's watching at the moment, but it's fun to just be able to kick in with some extra stuff and not have to go through this whole process in order to to do it. So that's kind of fun. But yeah, I encourage people to subscribe to us on Twitch, because the more people subscribe to us on Twitch, the greater it grows the program and helps out Leo and I. So that would be really great.
We do appreciate.
Most people may think of it as a platform just for people who want to watch gamers game, but it really is a lot more than that. And as a matter of fact, it has an actual category, which we are in, for talk shows. So that's one of the other things I like. So people looking for talk shows will come across our program. So that's great.
Congratulations,
anyway,
guys. Thank you.
So the in a nutshell, the plot of this episode is a backs up to the end of season 2, in which Captain Freeman gets wrongfully arrested for the destruction of the Pakled homeworld. And so this episode picks up there, and it's basically about, well, you have an A plot and a B plot. And this is something that I found really interesting, because I didn't get it until Will Wheaton explained it to me on the Ready Room. But you have the A plot, which is Captain Freeman's trial. And you have the B plot, which is all the lower decks guys trying to exonerate her. Mariner's all really upset about it, and they all jump in together and they try to help to exonerate her, and you get the end. The part that I didn't get is that the gag was you don't really see the A plot at all, because they've done courtroom dramas a million times on Star Trek, and you don't need to see it again. So you barely see the courtroom stuff at all. You most of the time see just the B plot, which is the guys running around trying to.
Well, and wasn't it a clever way to just kind of gloss over it by just having the standard courtroom drawings that you see?
Yeah, we got to see those. Those. Apparently, you still can't put cameras in courtrooms.
Apparently, yeah.
I did love that hand-drawn images. It's not even like they're taking like still images. It's somebody is there with a sketch pad, maybe a pad. But
yeah. Which is really funny when you think about the fact that the ship's black box, basically, I'm trying to think of what they call it, but the recordings of everything that goes on the ship.
Yeah,
it goes pans in, it pans out, it takes a dramatic shot from this angle, then it goes to somebody else, and yet the courtroom, you had to have a guy hand sketching it.
Yes.
So
it becomes this wonderful sort of parade of Earth-based Star Trek stuff. Because first of all, we start out at the Boimler in San Francisco, where Mariner is staying with her dad and breaking potted plants and smashing view screens out of frustration.
Right.
It's just very antsy because she's like, she wants to do something and she's feels like her hands are tied. She's like, and that stupid red thing she points on the window, it's the Golden Gate Bridge. And her dad's like, people love the bridge. I love the bridge. And she's like, it's just people don't drive anymore.
Yeah.
The planet is whack, and she's
did you guys notice that there was a little Lars pad on every potted plant in the house?
Yeah, little LCARS.
Yes. LCARS thing, a little LCARS thing.
Presumably to maintain, moisture and fertilizer levels and so on.
But done in that same LCARS standard. I thought it was great.
And then Mariner just comes and smashes them. So
Well, what? So Joe, you're not a huge regular fan. So what what leapt out for you in the episode that you thought was fun or good, or maybe could have been done better, or whatever?
Well, as you said, I mean, I'm a big quote unquote Townsville Tidbits fan. Easter eggs, that's always a lot of fun, especially for us old time fans.
Right.
As long as it doesn't overtake the story, and this certainly didn't. I saw a couple other episodes that almost, it's kind of skirted that line. I just think that the personalities, the characters, they're all in such, funny broad strokes. It just, especially, of course, Mariner and Boimler, and then you have the more sedate. I'm going to say the more sedate bridge crew, but that's not really true either, is it?
No, they're pretty. Yeah.
But I guess the only one that's halfway sane is Captain Freeman, which is how it should be.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's a nice tight little format. Half hour. Gets a lot in there in terms of story, and of course, again, the so-called fan service. I mean, you guys are going to get to this. I won't delve too much into Bozeman, Montana, and everything like that yet. But it's just a lot of fun. I mean, as I told you as we were waiting to go on, you know what? I probably have been a little bit remiss in watching this more regularly, so I got to check out some more.
Well, I mean, Leo and I have both said, and other people I think have said, I think I might have heard Will Wheaton say it today, that it's a love letter to Star Trek in many ways, because it's humor, but it's humor because you love it, not because you're making fun of it. Mm-hmm. And that's, I think, a big difference, and that's what makes it sort of a fan's show that way. But you mentioned the Bozeman, Montana thing. That may have been my favorite bit in the whole episode, just the way it was commercialized into this theme park, and really geared, sort of dumbed down for kids too.
Sure. I mean, how do you think the Vulcans feel about their ship being made into a slide? I mean,
with the swings out there. Swings on
the side and the slide down where the team. There's also got the name of it was the One Jukebox Cafe, or the One Song Jukebox, because it only played.
Well, the bar that has the jukebox that plays one song.
But there was also
Ooby Dooby.
that said First Contact, which presumably was a place for drinks, and they had balloons that were in shape of the Enterprise and the Defiant and the Phoenix, and it's just the fact that when they go in, both Tendi and Rutherford are wearing the Zephram Cochrane caps,
right?
Obviously, were made because I was trying to look up. I said, does anybody make them? They apparently they're like two bands which are like from cowboy hats. They think the ones that they're like the little metal.
Okay. Yeah.
And it was something cobbled together probably by the art department or the costume department.
Well, it reminds me a little bit of Jughead.
Oh yeah, his little thing with the crown with the
it's because it's a little jaggedy, and it's got the cap on the top.
It's got it has a bill which is always in the back.
Oh, okay.
It looks a little like either like a bicycle, pro biker's hat, or maybe like a Greek fisherman's hat that's been modified. Like it's sort of this weird, sort of hybrid chimera of different hats.
But I would be surprised if someone hasn't made one.
I'm sure somebody has, although I was looking around today online to see if anybody was there was some place you could buy one, and I haven't, not even on Etsy.
Right.
But I love the fact that both Rutherford and Tendi were wearing them, and so they bought them as soon as they walked in.
Yeah, like a Mickey Mouse hat.
Yeah, like mouse ears. Yeah,
like mouse ears. Yeah.
Well,
and then the queue, where they're in the queue for the ride, the Phoenix ride. And he comes up in that little screen. He's like, I'm making some repairs, but,
And the fact that
it's like, okay.
And they got James Cromwell to come back and do the voice.
Exactly,
that was fantastic. Yeah.
So that puts him in well, not as an actor, it's not the same character, but puts him in 4 different Trek incarnations. Because, of course, we had him in the one TNG episode as the minister.
Right.
Of the Vietnam plan, I guess. And then, of course, we have in First Contact. And let's not forget, Broken Bow.
Yeah.
Right.
As Zephram Cochrane. Now this. So he's, Zephram's making the rounds over the years.
Oh, yeah.
Such a different version of Zephram Cochrane from the original series, who was basically sort of a haircut.
Right.
Guy with the neatly parted hair, and he was... Yeah. He wasn't
very clean cut 60s.
very
Yes.
clean cut sort of like scientist guy.
Yeah.
And then we got to which is maybe almost the way people saw him in retrospect. When you look back on historical figures and you have this picture of them in your mind, the way they acted. And the idea that the real guy was, it's like I was just trying to get rich. I just wanted to.
Yeah.
Well, my personal theory, Leo, is that Zephyr Cochrane, at some point, as we know from that episode, Metamorphosis, he went to the Alpha Centauri and must have some kind of magical rejuvenation powers.
Maybe, yeah.
Glenn Corbett looked a hell of a lot younger then than James Cromwell is now.
I think like they say in the theme song to Mystery Science Theater, it's just a TV show. We should really just relax.
Yeah.
That's when the stuff that doesn't quite make sense, you just have to be like, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
That's what it looks like now.
I've started to notice that line gets thrown out to end more fights on the internet in science fiction chat rooms lately.
It's a solid argument.
Yeah, I've noticed it about 4 or 5 times now when people start really getting into it, and then somebody says they quote that you really should just relax.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then everybody laughs because they're those people are all the same people that watch Mystery Science Theater.
Yeah.
So.
So many. So they basically, because they can't beam back up to the Cerritos because there's this cloud of sort of these space
cloud of aliens
that are disrupting. They're moving through, between the Earth and the dry dock.
Right.
And they try to break into this transporter facility, which they said originally it was like this old crazy security guy, and he's like a badass. And then it turns out he's like everybody's grandpa. He's voiced by Bobby Moynihan from SNL.
Right.
Who also played Spocko in the infamous spin-off, Lost.
My favorite.
Trek. And he has like a bowl of...
My favorite Spock sibling.
Yes. Ranks above Michael and Cyborg.
Yeah, exactly.
So he even has a bowl of butterscotch, and they're all like, "We got to knock him out in time out," and they're like, "We can't do it." He's like the sweetest.
Well, I love the bit where Mariner's about ready to clock him over the back of the head, and he says, "And that's when my wife died."
Yeah,
it's like there's nothing they can do to this guy because he's just so old and sweet.
And then
I can't do this.
And he pulls a phaser on him, and they all start freaking out. He said, "No, I'm not going to stun you." And he said, "It's okay. Let me mix you some soup."
Yeah.
And he explains why they can't beam up, which is why they go to Bozeman.
Yeah.
Mentioned earlier in the episode, to steal the Phoenix ride, which takes you into orbit.
Yeah.
So it's once they get
what's funny about it though is that every time that ride goes up, you're basically launching an ICBM.
Yeah.
I mean, I see the thing going up and it's got the flame coming out of the bottom, and I'm like, yeah, wow, what a ride.
But they did.
Now, I have a question for you guys. I guess it's an anti-Townsend tidbit. Was Gavin, who kind of went along for a ride, is he significant beyond this episode, or was just a guy?
He's just a guy. He was just a bit there.
But the guy that ends up in the ride with them?
The plus one in their mission.
Yeah, he reminds me of a friend of ours.
A little.
Okay.
A little.
Well, I also
I
won't throw the name out, but
I love the fact that this guy comes in wearing shorts and has a fanny pack on the front. Like very sort of
so theme park.
Tourist guys going to the amusement park kind of thing. Well, I don't want to lose anything, so I'm gonna put it in the fanny pack. That'll be safe. Apparently fanny packs have survived till the 24th century.
Unfortunately.
They're marvelous.
Now, if he should have been wearing a Bozeman, Montana t-shirt of some sort.
Yeah.
Maybe
the picture.
I'm sure he's going to leave.
He hadn't gotten to the gift shop yet. I guess.
Gavin was a throwaway character. So I'm no longer Gavin the botanist. I'm Gavin the pilot. And they're like, I'm going to explore space. And they're like, all right, respect, man. Good for you.
I'm on a trek through the stars.
Yeah. But they also played, Magic Carpet Ride. They did they hit all the the notes from First Contact.
Oh God, the
Which
theme
was
the theme
great.
music, everything.
Yeah, everything was just so on point.
Oh, did you notice? You know that new little thing that Paramount's doing with their new shows?
Yes.
Where,
I didn't know that.
where it has the ship fly up and make the Delta. Well, it was the Cerritos in this one.
Cerritos.
Yeah, I saw that. I didn't notice it the first time I watched. I noticed.
Yeah.
It. I was like, oh, good for them.
Yeah.
And there's a big thing that Mariner keeps talking about. She feels like the California class ships don't get a lot of respect, which seems all the episodes sort of leading up to here sort of bear that out because they're a second contact ship.
Yes.
They never, except for the last episode of the last season, they never do a first contact. You know, the ones who they fall off. You're like, listen, we've got some paperwork. If you know, because you joined the Federation.
Yeah.
You mind? Listen, can you fill this out? Because we need to bring that back. You know, so much less glamorous. You know, when the Enterprise just sails off after making first contact, that other people have to show up afterwards. I think it would be hilarious if we saw Gavin, the pilot, a few more times this season. We're not expecting to see Gavin come back.
There's very often little waste and I mean, he the Gavin character could be one and done and be great, but often if they get something that's popular, they'll find a way to use it.
They might. Yeah. They just might.
Yeah.
But what was also I enjoyed about this is Mariner actually shows some vulnerability because she's like, well, we'll go back because Boimler has logs where he re-records the captain's logs, like so it has all the star dates and it has all the information that can prove that she wasn't on the Pakled planet. And but he's also put all this weird stuff like, you know, ransom.
I dropped my tricorder in the toilet. And my favorite was he has several of them about having a gas problem.
Yeah.
Yes.
At first it's I went down to that planet and now I have this problem with gas. It's so painful. And then there's another one. It's like I just wish I could fart.
And
pure and simple.
an alien bird ate my comm badge. You know.
Right.
And she's like, you know, of course, Mariner flips out. She's like, "This is a joke." You know, they're not gonna. And they're like, "Listen, again, everybody's like her dad. People are saying, trust the system. Trust that. You know, justice will be done."
Yeah.
But she sends everybody. She programs the shuttle to take everybody back. She's like, "I gotta go check the Narsil," and it takes off. And she's programmed to send it back to Earth because she's gonna steal the Cerritos and find the Klingons that sold the weapons to the Pakleds. And also, there's like I guess a station that's sort of keeping track of like, I guess it's not space I guess it's like an equivalent of space equivalent of air traffic control.
Yeah, it's like an yeah. I love the power. The guy was not playing. He was playing 3D chess on the computer.
Yeah.
And
it's a regular one station. You know. And they're
I like the casual button press for the red alert.
Yeah, because they're like,
okay,
hey, is the Cerritos still cleared to move? He's like, no, they're dry dock. And they look out and it goes standing by them, and he just goes, and the red alert goes off, and they convince her not to, you know, they go back and she's fighting with them, and there's a point where they go on that upper part of the bridge, which has like the console, and you hear all this like fighting, and you think, oh, they're subduing her. But she's beating the hell out of all three of them.
Yeah.
And somebody says, how does she know how to fight so well?
Well, because she's a spy.
Because she's
a murderous spy.
She's a
black. As simple as that, huh, Chris?
That was from last season. The bartender keeps telling Boimler that he's got to be careful because Mariner's actually basically like a Section 31 type person.
Oh, okay.
And it just turns out she put that rumor out to get people to talk about her.
And to leave her alone.
Yeah.
But I love how she's become more vulnerable. And the ship stops because, you know, Rutherford locks her out of navigation. And she just sort of has kind of a breakdown. She's, you know, because it's her mom. She's like, I can't do anything. They walked her in handcuffs. And she's just feeling powerless. She's always been a very proactive person.
Right.
Well, and even though it's a lighthearted animated series, I've seen enough to know that you just keep her like wacky and hilarious all the time. You know, it's going to get thin.
Yeah.
You know, you do, again, it all comes back to you. What you want to have characterization, even in something, you know, like this. I maybe even more so in something like this.
Well, there's the Truth in Comedy, which is also an excellent book on improv.
Yeah.
But I remember doing. I have a big background in improv, which accounts for my vast wealth. He said sarcastically. But I remember doing a class, and we used to do an exercise called family dinner, where you would get an object. It would be like spoon, so it's spoon day, and it's like make it a thing, and it was like somebody would, be the mom or the dad or the brother, however it was.
Right.
And I was watching a scene. I wasn't in the scene, but somebody shot their father, and then somebody made like a quip, and our instructor said, "No, stop. If your brother shot your father at the dinner table, you would you have to react realistically, and there has to be truth to comedy. It can't just be about funny lines. There has to be an emotional undercurrent, like a framework for it to resonate.
Right. Sure.
So, and I like how her character has grudgingly evolved. Like she's still a bit of a wild card, but she's also like, I'm like a Kirk style, and people are like, no, you're not, because Kirk, looked to other people for help.
Right.
She definitely puts up fences, and maybe who knows why she has these particular.
Sure. Yeah.
It hasn't been addressed yet, but I like the fact that everybody has real emotional stakes in it.
And the characters have developed, like you said last week, Leo. The character of Boimler starts out much more incompetent than he ends up being. He gains confidence over the first 2 seasons. So
especially on the Titan, I would imagine. I know he was on the Titan for a time. So
and as terrifying as that was at times. But it's very solid. So
and because of watching the Ready Room today, I got to see a sneak peek from next week. So
yes, I did too.
Which is about Boimler.
It is.
I'll have to check that out.
We'll drop that little bomb.
So, but it's there was so much stuff, but I love that. It one of the things that the producer said was, we do 10 episodes and they're half hour each, so we can't disrupt the status quo that much. Like it can't, because,
which is why this all gets tied up with a bow. At the end of this episode,
it is. And, we find out that a secret team was sent to investigate. They found out there was a data forger who made the image, because there was an image of the captain dropping a bomb off on Packlet Planet. And by the way, this is one of the, I don't know if this is a Townsend tidbit, but it's a Genesec gem. Is
a Genesec gem?
Yes, Morgan Bateson, who was the captain, that was a character who appeared in the TNG episode Cause and Effect. He was played by Kelsey Grammer.
Yep.
He was a 23rd century captain who was caught in a time loop. It was the thing where the ship kept blowing up, and they kept, and that was, which is a lot of people call the Groundhog Day episode, although it came out earlier than Groundhog Day. So you could say Groundhog Day is the Cause and Effect movie. If you're being really picky about it. But that was like, I was like, it's like when you give somebody's full name, I'm like, because I didn't recognize the name immediately because I have not seen that episode in quite a while. But I was like, let me Google that. I'm like, oh yes. And while they didn't get Kelsey Grammer to come in and do the voice, much like we didn't hear Tuvok's voice, sadly.
Right.
It's all told in this flashback by Captain Freeman in this great sort of captain moment towards the end of the episode. And all 4 of our lower deckers were duly impressed. And in fact, Brother says, could you please say that again? Like you want to hear the story again, like a kid who's like, tell me the same. Tell me that story again.
And as I said earlier, I mean, I think the writing is tight enough and planned so thoroughly that nothing is wasted. I'm sure we can look forward to an actual Kelsey Grammer cameo later in the season.
That would be great. I would love to know.
Yeah,
and Leo, there's only one part of your Genesec gem. Don't forget, Captain Bateson was the captain of
the Bozeman.
USS Bozeman.
Yes.
Ah.
Double. It's a it's an egg inside an egg.
It's
Exactly.
It's a
Russian
multifaceted
ball
gem.
of-
Yes, one of those double yolked deals.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, no, yeah, I exactly right, Joe. Well spotted.
Thank you, sir.
So overall, this does sort of do not a reset, but it brings everything back to the status quo. Except there's a scene at the end where Mariner is being talked to by her parents, although she's in her usual sort of snarky self.
Yeah.
And they basically said, she said, "What are you going to like demote me and send me another ship?" They were like, "No, this is it for you.
Right.
This ship, no, you can't. There's nowhere else for you to go." And the mother says, I can't be objective about you because I love you and I want the best for you. So I can't be responsible for your future in Starfleet. And I also can't continually excuse your behavior. So I'm
Right.
going to find somebody who doesn't have a familial tie or an emotional stake in this. And that is Commander Jack Ransom.
Ransom.
So
Yep.
of the Cerritos, who's basically
Who's
says,
gonna be your mama now?
yeah.
Yeah.
So and she
Who's
looks,
your mommy?
Yeah.
and she is terrified as well. She
Oh,
should
yeah.
be. So there was so many great moments.
Hey, can we jump back for a second?
Sure,
Because
please.
we skipped over in the opening when you're seeing all of the crew and where they're spending their time on Earth.
Yeah.
They do a Picard send up
Yes.
with Boimler working at his family's vineyard, but they don't make wine, they make raisins.
Yeah.
My old stomping grounds, guys.
Yeah.
I went to
Really?
school in Fresno.
Oh
Oh,
wow.
yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I thought was funny, and I wrote a couple of them down here, the euphemisms that the female workers were using on Boimler to try to get him to mess around with them. Test the sweetness of my bushel.
Yes.
That may be my favorite, but then it keeps turning the girls down. They get worse and worse, and at the end, I'm soaked in juice and I need help getting naked.
Is
Oh, you can get naked on your own. I'm busy.
Yeah, I'll just use a hose.
Did you notice that Bushel girl that looked a lot like the Sunmaid girl from?
She does
Brown
look
Race?
Yes,
yeah.
yes, yeah,
I'm sure that's no accident.
yeah.
No,
Yeah.
no
Well-
accidents in this show.
No,
We get to see Tendi and Rutherford at Cisco's
Yep.
in New Orleans, and in fact, you over Rutherford's shoulder, you see the alligator hanging from the ceiling. That Cisco's dad told Jake, he says he's in the
that's in stasis.
but but at night he guards the restaurant.
Yeah, he's in
After he's shut
stasis.
down,
I love
which
it.
is the sort of thing your grandpa would love to tell you,
Yes.
to a kid. And didn't we mention the Ketracel White?
Yes.
Which was at it was 17 million Scoville units, and let me look at my notes here. There was now the Carolina Reaper was named by the Guinness Book of World Records as the world's hottest pepper and peaks at 2,200,000 Scoville units. So Ketracel White hot is considerably more mouth dissolving, let's call it.
Doesn't bother Mariner though.
But if ours a hell of a Boimler.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I would have looked a little more closely at that label.
At that label. Yeah.
But
Yeah, Ketracel White Hot. I think you guys need to develop that and put it into the merch store for Trek Tonight, I think.
Oh yeah.
yeah,
There
yeah.
you go.
Yeah.
The fact that you saw that Rutherford had like the asymmetrical sweater, which was very much the style, and a lot of like civilian. It's got a kick. Yes.
He says it's got a kick. Yeah.
He is a big hot sauce fan, so I know he'd be braver than me.
Well, I'm sorry, the cyborg character Rutherford, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Was I looked, I tried to finding it, but I didn't get there quite in time. But I'm pretty sure that's pretty much a replica of Jake Sisko's shirt from the DS9 episodes when they were at Cisco's.
Oh, it looks a lot like it. Yeah.
There was sort of civilian clothes, which was always
Right.
looked like carpet samples sort of sewn together. But Boimler's wearing, speaking of Jake Sisko, he's wearing the same vest that Jake Sisko would wear. That sort of purple, sort of thin vest he wore. And of course, Mariner has the leather jacket and the boots and she's very much like, the Tom Cruise of this group.
Oh, and I like when she jumps in on that. I've forgotten the line, but she jumps in and they're all like, "Did you
Wait,
Did you
said
wait?"
that? And she's like, no. And Bum goes, no, we were out there like for a minute. I'm like, what are we doing? She's like, shut up, get us some chairs.
Got to make the right entrance.
Right entrance, exactly. But there were so many. By the way, the shuttlecraft, 3 shuttlecraft we saw the names of on the Cerritos were Joshua Tree, which is the one they were riding that crashes
Redwood.
later on, Death Valley, and Redwood.
And Redwood, yeah.
Which ties into California Class.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The what else?
Do you have anything else, Joe, that that you especially got a kick out of, or that we haven't already covered?
Now that you ask Chris, sure, I got a few things.
Great.
Hopefully I'm not stealing a couple of gymnastic gems by accident, but what the heck? That's all collective effort, right?
Yeah.
Crashing through the mall, through all the stores in their stolen buggy. I noticed a similarity there to Boimler naming all the stores they're crashing through to the Blues Brothers doing the same thing in their movie.
Right.
They're crashing through the mall.
Good one.
Thank you, sir. That kind of just stuck out at me. And then as they're going crazy there, they almost hit a Lurian, which of course is Morn's race. He got as it shifted off to the side. Almost got somebody using Pike's a chair like he used it back in the day.
Yes.
Right.
Potential hit and run victims there. Hopefully, thankfully they got out of the way. Gotcha, but it's we could spend the whole show, the three of us, just saying, "What about this, and this?" That was cool to see that. But great stuff.
Here's something that it struck me. Was watching the opening credits. In the first season, you see Romulan ships fighting a Borg cube with a few Klingon birds of prey, like swooping in and out. Second season, they added Pakled ships. This season, they added a crystalline entity.
Yes,
that's right.
I saw the crystalline entity. Yeah,
which I thought was I was like, I remember the Pakled ship they added, and then the crystalline entity. It was a lovely because we got.
So, do you think we're going to see a new race added each season to that battle scene that the Cerritos runs away from?
Could be. It reminded me a little bit of I don't know if this is on your guys' radar, but there was a Chris Rock produced show about 15 years ago called Everybody Hates Chris.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Okay, now every year they had a family portrait. The next season, that family portrait got hung on the wall, and they had a new family portrait hanging in its place. Yeah. So they did that, I guess, 4 times. That's how long the show was on. So it's
right.
It was reminiscent of that. You're going to see a little bit of a addition there, I think, every time.
Maybe that's kind of cool. Because I was actually looking to see if there were any changes for some reason. I don't know what made me think that. And then I saw the crystalline entity. Now Keith has. Oh, go ahead, Joe, because then I'm going to bring in something Keith has to say.
Sure. The only thing I want to
some others, right?
Is I do have 2 sets of congratulations. I want to congratulate because I did happen to catch from season 2 an embarrassment of Duplers.
Yes, that's a
lot of fun. And so I noticed, of course, in that we had the DS9 model with the Quark imprint on it. And now, of course, we're seeing once again there's yet another branch of Quark's bar.
Yes.
Where they go. We saw that in, of course, Picard season 1. So congratulations to Quark.
Yeah.
He's doing, his corporation's doing well.
He's doing very well. Yep.
And the other congratulation, just real quick, I want to congratulate both of you for making Trek Tonight such a blast to watch. It's the bits you've been doing and the teasers and so forth and the shows are great stuff. So I just want to get that out there before we run out of time.
Thank you so much, Joe. We really appreciate it.
Now on to Keith.
Okay, let's see. Now, Keith, he loved the twist of this episode. Usually the heroes of the show have to use extraordinary measures because the system fails them. By the end, the heroes' shenanigans have failed, but the system worked, and I love that. Yeah, it is true. Yeah. It was an optimistic back to days of old Star Trek in my way, because we've seen in recent years a lot of evil admirals and secret plot twists and Section 31 and all this kind of stuff. But it's nice to see Starfleet function the way we imagined it would back in TOS and in Next Generation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
It's funny because it's almost like a murder mystery where you're told the solution, but nobody, it sort of, goes over everybody's head.
Right.
Her dad is like, trust the system. And even everybody else was like, well, listen, they're going to feel foolish when they find out that she's not, she's not guilty, and
Like Admiral Bueno Amigo.
yes, Admiral Goodfriend, who was voiced by,
I love that. I just, it was
he
so
was,
fun.
Well, and going back to a point that Leo made at the beginning, just the fact that, again, we've seen Star Trek courtroom dramas more than a few times over the years. There's no doubt that Captain Freeman's gonna be exonerated, and I just thought it was so cool. Just said, okay, we're gonna take this A plot and just kind of condense it down. But the whole point is, it's definitely a case of the journey, not the destination, which I think worked really well with this episode. Yeah.
And I don't know if it's because I literally watched it. It actually was dropped before 3 a.m. It was dropped at 2:48 my time, and so I don't know if it's that the first time I watched it, it was the middle of the night. I just happened to be up, and I saw, and I flipped it on. But then when I watched it again this morning, it still went over my head until I watched Will Wheaton's show, and then they explained it, and I was like, oh, okay, I get it now.
Now, what exactly was explained for you, Chris? I'm curious. So, it just never occurred to you that there was kind of like an A-B structure in most of these episodes?
It's not. They called it an A-B structure, which I wasn't thinking of it that way. But what I was thinking when I saw it was, wait, she just got off? Like, you know what I mean? Like, where's the courtroom drama? Because I'm used to there being Star Trek courtroom drama, and that's the point of the joke.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I didn't get that joke. I just thought, oh, how come we didn't see it?
Well,
thank God we have Will Wheaton to help us along with these things.
Exactly. Right? Yeah.
And I just love the idea that the system did work. I mean, we live in a world where the system works sort of sometimes, not a lot of times. No, but it is refreshing to see, and also the fact that Starfleet were like, they probably had suspect, but they're doing this to to draw out the guilty parties, and they're it is good to see. And also the idea that she's like, yes, listen, this was all planned out, and the idea that they were all, I mean, well-intentioned, but sort of, not entirely well thought out, plan to exonerate her, which possibly.
Well, and it was very, I mean, I guess that's sort of the joke too. Their plan was definitely something we've seen before, bits of what we've seen before. So,
well, the whole episode hinged on the ironic, to be sure.
Right.
And that's what made it refreshing and different and funny.
Yeah.
There's also, if you've seen the poster for this season, it very much looks like Star Trek 3, The Search for Spock. So, it's a bit of a nod to that, to them stealing the Enterprise and going off on a mission. But I'm enjoying it. At first, I was a little like, that's how it ended. Okay.
Yeah.
The more I think about it, the more I like it.
I wrote to Leo early today because I was a little disappointed. And then later on, I wrote, well, I watched The Ready Room, and now I understand the joke.
Yeah.
So Leo's like, I think maybe I ought to watch that.
Yeah.
Well, I think being a short show, 30 minutes or less, you probably I think it's only natural to come to that conclusion as well. They kind of just had to wrap that up, I guess. They're running out of time. But that wasn't
but it's funny, Joe, because Leo said this last week, and he was kind of right. Normally they cram an awful lot into a half hour.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this one was a little looser, I thought, in a way.
It was, because it was sort of a reset. In TV, there's usually like, whatever happened at the end of one episode doesn't necessarily affect what happened in the next episode, like traditional, episodic TV. Also, the producer said, listen, we get 10 shows, each one's a half hour. We don't have a lot of time to spend. Like if time is currency, we only have a limited amount of currency.
Right.
So it takes a long time to do
Yeah.
an animated show.
Yeah.
So naturally they were, they sort of had to do the reset. But I think they did. We got to see the B plot of an episode, and the A plot was sort of explained to us, in a
Right.
In
like
shorthand.
the shorthand version of it at the
Yeah.
end of the episode.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Hey guys, can I make just two more brief points? Because I thought these are, and again, I think
Of
this might be more
course.
interesting from a casual fan of this particular series so far.
Yeah.
I couldn't help noticing, of course, that we had, because as per your suggestion, I did watch last season's finale first.
Right.
And I found it interesting that the season finales for Lower Decks and for Strange New Worlds were kind of similar, where somebody got, high-ranking official got arrested. So of course, it remains to be seen now what's going to happen with number one. I thought that was interesting. So nice little parallel there. Almost like Strange New Worlds almost kind of lifted it from Lower Decks, but we'll let that go. But the bigger point for me is this, and I got to tell you, as far as being more sold, I mean, I wasn't against this or anything. It's just not been a high priority show for me so far. But when I heard from San Diego Comic-Con News that we were going to have a crossover between Strange New Worlds and Lower Decks, I go, no, is this going to be some kind of weird hybrid Roger Rabbit type thing? What are they going to do?
I don't know. That's a good question.
So, but I guess we're gonna have live action versions played by the voice actors in Strange New Worlds. And I assume animated number one.
I don't know. Yeah,
I'm very curious to see what they'll do with that.
Yeah.
They all kind of look like their characters, and they appeared in it was either San Diego Comic-Con or another, maybe a Star Trek, one of these big Star Trek cons.
Well, don't you guys think it's just going to be them animating the Strange New Worlds guys into the show?
Oh yeah,
Like they do everybody else.
I know this much from when I've read, at least. Yeah, we're going to have the live action actors in Strange New Worlds, and then whether that's part one or two of the story, we're going to have.
I didn't know they were doing it in both.
They're doing it in both, and then we're going to have animated versions of Pike and number one, I believe, in Lower Decks. And you know what? It worked for the Rikers.
Yeah,
as far as bringing them into this, and years ago, Jonathan Frakes joked. He says, I want to do a comedy Trek with the Rikers in space, and I guess maybe we'll get that.
Yeah.
I am from the start. I've been a fan of this because it doesn't, like I said, it's not making fun of Star Trek like this is stupid, but there is stuff like in any genre that doesn't quite make sense. Like if you start like unraveling it, it sort of dissolves, and you have to just sort of accept it because at the end of the first season, Shax, the chief of security,
dies.
Bajoran, badass, dies, and then he shows up
very heroically,
dying heroically, saving Rutherford's life.
Yep.
And then he shows up in the third episode, and Rutherford's like, "What the hell's going on?" And everybody's like, "Yeah, they don't like to talk about it. It's just like they're always coming back. It could be a mirror universe clone. It could be a Borg thing. It could be this. It could be that. Doesn't matter. We just sort of like accept it. And when he tells Rutherford says, like, I feel guilty that you died, and he's like, well, don't feel guilty. It's not your fault.
Right.
He says, we do this to spare younger officers the truth. And he starts talking about like the Black Mountain, where you're fighting, and it's like he starts doing it, and they sort of fade away. Rutherford's eyes go big, and they're like, "Hey, did you ever find out?" He's like, "Nope, just gonna give up." Because it's like whatever the truth is, it's too.
It's so horrible. Yeah.
But I love the fact that they are. It almost feels like the main characters are fans of Star Trek, or at least fans of Starfleet.
Right.
Starfleet history, because they were arguing about who was tougher, Khan, and I can't remember. It was the Vietnam episode we mentioned before with Jim Cromwell, where there was like all these like highly like these super soldiers were created for this war, and rather than spend the money to try to like deprogram them or bring them back to sort of baseline human or whatever they were, they looked human. Let's say that they just locked him away in a prison. That guy was like a real badass. Like he escaped off the Enterprise because he didn't show up on sensor scans, and he was like a great fighter, and he was
Well, he could shrug off transporter beams. You know?
yeah.
Right.
He bought it. Yeah, he was. So they were arguing about who is tougher, Khan or that guy whose name I can't remember. So forgive me, fans. And like Mariner's like, it was like, fuck that guy. It was like, Khan, what's wrong with you? Of course it's Khan. And they drop all these little things. Like they're like, oh, we're gonna get a temporary capture. Like,
well, in the episode with where they are all getting invited to the big Starfleet ball of the year, and they can't get in, and they end up in the bar, and they're sitting at the same spot where Kirk and Spock carved their names into the bar.
They couldn't get in either, apparently.
Yep, couldn't get in either. Yeah. So, do we have anything else on this episode? Or?
Last bit of Easter eggs. At the beginning, with the Federation News Network, there was like a little,
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. On the bottom.
Yeah.
This was Admiral Jellicoe bans the Zebulon sisters from active duty starships. Zebulon sisters from the first season, creators of the Choo Choo Dance, which both Boimler and Mariner were gaga over. It says the Buffalo Solar Knights eclipsed the London Kings in Game 1 of ELDS. Now, I assume this is a baseball thing because the London Kings were a baseball team that had played in the distant past, because we found out because Cisco was a big baseball fan. And so maybe baseball has sort of come back into fashion. I'm not sure what ELDS, Earth something, I don't know what it is.
Escapes me too.
So if anybody knows, please let us know. A 6-year-old Zakadorn, the youngest to be crowned Stratagena Grandmaster, in the TNG episode Peak Performance, where they had this very officious sort of prissy Stratagena, which is like apparently attaching thimbles with cables at the end of them to your fingers and going like this to a screen.
Yes.
Incomprehensible future video strategy game. So they have a new Grandmaster, a 6-year-old of the same alien species, and dozens of teenagers injured rushing the stage at the Sonny Clemens concert. Sonny Clemens was the 20th century country music star who was defrosted in the TNG episode Neutral Zone.
Mm-hmm.
Who Data points out, well, since everybody's forgotten about your music, you'll be a novelty and you become famous again. And apparently it's true, because teens apparently have gone crazy for 20th century country music once again. So make of that what you will. So those were the little things going on the bottom of the screen.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool.
Yeah.
Pausing to write down.
He went on to make himself a memory.
He did. So,
I wish I should have looked it up. The at the end, the kid who ends up solving, I forget what the theorem is, or the
Fermat's theorem. Here's the thing about that. I also have some note which I found.
Oh, did you look it up?
I didn't look it up, but somebody else made a list of Easter eggs, some of which I used and some of which I didn't.
Right.
A little boy, let's see, what does it say? FNN reported a little boy solved Fermat's last theorem, which was actually solved in 1995. The TNG episode, The Royale, refers to it being unsolved. But the DS9 episode, Facets, references the proof by mathematician Andrew Wiles. So in between those two episodes, somebody proved his last theorem, and Star Trek adjusted their course. So, and we have the child who solved Fermat's last theorem guest starring on the episode right now.
There they are.
How did you do that?
Well, there she is. That was brilliant.
So there we go.
So I'm trying to think if there's any. I don't have any other notes on it.
I don't either. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I was taken a little back, but the more I thought about it and the more I watched it, the more I enjoyed it. So I'm looking forward to next week's episode.
Yep.
Which looks to be interesting.
Which Chris has already seen a sneak peek.
Yeah, I
think Leo must have too.
Yeah.
If he,
check it out myself.
If y'all want to see it, just tune in to Will Wheaton's
the Ready Room.
Room.
Yes.
And they show that little clip towards the end.
So, and the Ready Room, I believe, is also available on YouTube if you're not a subscriber.
Yeah, a day or so later, you'll get I think you get the whole one, or a lot of times they'll just isolate the sneak peek clip.
Yeah. So.
I'm sure it'll come out.
Yeah.
But,
well, apparently Will's seen the whole season, so.
Yes, he's very excited.
Yeah.
As would I if I got to.
Yes, he says it's great, and we're going to really enjoy it, and so on.
It's off to a great start, and I want to thank you guys for having me on, like I say. And
Joe, it's always a pleasure. We're always so excited when you come on. Yeah,
thank you so much, and
you're welcome.
Give me a little bit more of a nudge toward making this more of a must-see TV event. So thank you for that too.
Good.
Good. Anything else, Leo?
Other than, as I say every week, please follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and
now Twitch,
YouTube, now Twitch, at Trek Tonight. Please, if you have any questions, email us at trektonight2022@gmail.com.
Right.
Thank you to everybody who is watching tonight. And we will see you again next week. And live long and prosper.
Yep.
Absolutely.
And now I'm doing this with a child in my lap, so
very impressive.
Let's dance. Folks, we'll see you next week, hopefully. Please join us again when we look at episode 2 of season 3 of Lower Deck. Until then, have a great weekend.
Go Leo.